deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper. This is the most effective and the best way to understand how this Shakespeare machine worked. Hi everyone, welcome back to John Florio channel. I am Mary and I'm here to talk about the great John Florio. Hi guys, I hope you are all fine. I just want to say thank you for all your support, your comments. Don't forget to subscribe and to share these videos with your friends, with your relatives, to talk and comment about Shakespeare and John Florio. In the last video, I read some of the comments that you made and I would like to answer with this video. Some of you, for example, suggested a possible collaboration between the writers I mentioned, for example, Thomas North as Bacon, as Florio. Others asked me some questions, for example, the role of the patrons. So I would like to go a bit deeper in this topic, and the question is, why was Shakespeare political? What I mean with this? I would like to begin by reading some pages from a book about Robert Dudley, the Earl of Leicester. In this very interesting book, there is a chapter about Dudley writers, Thomas North, John Florio, and in this chapter, the writer underlines an important point about the patronage and how patronage worked in Elizabethan era. Let's read it. Through the patronage, writers and scholars were encouraged to serve the state by advertising and espousing the policies of the crown, and by engaging in literary activities that would profit the Commonwealth. Eleanor Rosenberg, Leicester patron of letters. Why I begin with this book, with these words? When we think about Shakespeare, we shouldn't think of him as a solo genius and a solo writer, and we shouldn't think of Shakespeare as someone who wakes up in the morning and think, oh, let's write Romeo and Juliet. Why? Because there was the patronage. How patronage worked? The patronage worked in this way. You had a patron who supported you, and you, in return, had to serve the country by writing works that would support the crown, Elizabeth I, and your country. Shakespeare's plays were political. They were all conceived in a political way. They were political propaganda. It is no coincidence that there was a boom of theatres during the Elizabethan era. Theatres served as social media work today. Through theatre, through entertainment, people would hear messages of the country, of the Queen. They had a specific aim, that of sharing political propaganda. So when we think about Shakespeare as a writer, we should think of Shakespeare as a writer who was under a patronage, surrounded by aristocrats and the crown, who commissioned certain plays to be written for a particular event, a marriage, a political event. This is the main reason why in the last videos, when I talk about Shakespeare machine as a group of writers, and when I mention patrons like Robert Dudley, De Vere, I underline that they had an important role in shaping, in commissioning the plays. Okay, not in writing. No, I don't believe, personally, that De Vere wrote Shakespeare plays. Yes, he had his own theatrical company, but that theatrical company didn't perform Shakespeare plays. But certainly De Vere, just like Robert Dudley, just like Pembroke, had an important role in commissioning and in shaping these Shakespeare plays, because The plays were political, were conceived not just to entertain the country. They had an aim, they had a role in the political environment of the time. Let's make some examples. Two positive examples and a negative one. Let's start with the negative one by talking about Robert de Vereux and the famous Richard II. Richard II dramatized the downfall of King Richard II and his forced abdication by Henry Bolingbroke. Elizabeth I famously identified with Richard II. Once say, "I am Richard II, don't you know that?" Now, the commissioning of the play. What happened? On the eve of the Essex Rebellion, on February 761, his supporters commissioned a Shakespeare company, the Lord Chamberlain's Men, to perform Richard II. Why this choice was significant? Because it portrayed the deposition of a king, a politically dangerous theme. The performance was likely intended to steer public sentiment against Queen Elizabeth I. After Essex Rebellion failed, Elizabeth reportedly remarked, "This tragedy was played 40 times in open streets and houses." So she understood the play's political implication and saw Essex actions as mirroring those of Bolingbroke. The actors were questioned about the play, but they were not punished. Essex instead was arrested and he was 1 month later executed. 12th Night and The Winter's Tale. Okay. Especially in Twelfth Night, we have a mention of Virginio Orsino. Virginio Orsino was Italian. He arrived in England, was received with great pomp by the Queen, and the Queen commissioned the play Twelfth Night, in which we have a homage to Virginio Orsino. It is today widely known, thanks to recent researches about Queen Anne of Denmark, that the plays that were performed at court had a political aim. In fact, if you go through personal documents of John Florio, we know that John Florio received many letters from European ambassadors. What did they want from Florio? Florio was the closest to the Queen. He was her private secretary, groom of the privy chamber. He spent all day with the Queen. And these European ambassadors wrote letters to Florio asking Florio to attend the plays. They were truly fighting to attend a play. Why? Because plays had a political role. There is a document, and it is important to me to always talk about historical documents. There is a document that testifies that there was a Spanish and French ambassadors who were fighting between each other because the Spanish ambassador was invited to the play and the French one wasn't invited. For these ambassadors to be invited was important because Queen Anne of Denmark conceived plays and entertainment as political, because through this plays they could show the power of the country. They sent messages, political messages. Another example, Winter's Tale, in which we have Shakespeare mentioning Giulio Romano, and many Shakespeare scholars say, yeah, you know, he possibly heard about Giulio Romano and he mentioned Giulio Romano in the play, so everything very casual and random. No, it was not random, it was political. Shakespeare was giving a homage to an Italian ambassador, Ottaviano Lotti. He was from Tuscany. He knew John Florio very well. Ottaviano Lotti was trying to arrange a marriage between the Italian house of Medici and the family of King James I. So he was in close contact with Florio because he knew that Florio was close to the Queen. And Ottaviano Lotti spoke to the Queen about Giulio Romano. We have historical documents that prove Ottaviano Lotti, this Italian Tuscan ambassador, was mentioning Giulio Romano to the Queen. And when we have this mention of Giulio Romano in The Winter's Tale, we have this mention because Ottaviano Lotti, who was attending the play, he was invited to the play, and hearing this name, he knew that the Queen was giving him a homage to Italy. It was like saying, we are political partners. Thanks to these recent discoveries done about Queen Anne of Denmark and the plays performed at court, we know now that the plays had an important political role, and ambassadors were fighting against each other to try to have a place to attend the play. Why? Because they enjoy plays? No, because it was a political game. This is why I think that it is important to conceive Shakespeare not as a solo writer, but as a machine in which the first level is the political role of the plays. And this is why we have the influence of people like Robert Dudley, that in 1578, with John Florio, with Thomas North, that we saw in the last video, began conceiving and writing the first Shakespearean plays. Robert Dudley commissioned these Italianate plays for the Laces Company. Why? Because he was inviting foreign ambassadors, and the majority of those ambassadors spoke Italian. This is why we have also the influence of the Vere, of the Pembroke, of Walsingham, who had, by the way, his own theatrical company as well as the Vere. So, to understand this first level, which was the political environment, because the plays were political propaganda. These writers, they were under the patronage, like Florio, like North, under the patronage of Dudley, of the Vere, of the Pembroke. They were serving the country. It is no coincidence that writers like Florio were also employed as spies by Walsingham, by King James. Florio was employed twice as a spy. First by Walsingham for the Babington plot, and second by King James when he was groom of the privy chamber. They were serving the country. These people who were at court and had power, they needed these people. They used these people as their pawns in the political game of Europe. They were literally playing chess game with the writers to whom they commissioned the plays. This is why Shakespeare was political. The first folio published in 1623 was political. So now that we have understood the first level of Shakespeare plays and why they were political and why we have the influence of these people, Robert Dudley, the Vere, Pembroke and Walsingham. Now we can go to the second level. Which is the second level? The second level is the play. Second level. Which is the second level of Shakespeare plays? The sources, the borrowings. Now we have understood how the plays were commissioned. We have understood the political role of the plays, and we have understood the role of these people. Now we can go to the second level. Which sources were used? Which borrowings were made? Which style the writer used? Now we can go deeper, and now we can go toward the writer. Which sources were used? Which books were used? Who read this book? Who had these books? Did he use books that were not yet translated into English? So he must have known at least Italian. Did he have these books? Do we have proof that he had these books in his library? This is the second level. Let's go deeper. The borrowings. Did he borrow from other writers, from other colleagues? Did he borrow from Marlowe? Did he borrow from Thomas North? We know that Shakespeare borrowed from Thomas North. So we have the proof, for example, for Antony and Cleopatra. The Shakespeare borrowed from North. So do we have the proof that Shakespeare knew North? Do we have the proof that Shakespeare read Thomas North? Deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper. This is the most effective and the best way to understand how this Shakespeare machine worked. Because if we put all these people together, De Vere, the Pembroke, William Stanley, all as writers, we cannot really understand how authorship works. These people, some of these people certainly had a role, and the best way to analyze this authorship is to understand first the historical context of the time, how theatre really worked, collaboration, readaptation, the political aim of the plays, and then we can go deeper to each source of each play, the style of each play, the borrowings, so that we can narrow the writers and choose who is the best candidate. Most of people make this authorship question so simple, but the simpler it is, the less you understand. In the next video, we go deeper, we go to the second level. I will take some plays as examples and I'll show you the sources, the borrowings, the style, to have a better identity of the man behind the Shakespeare plays. Stay resolute.